right. Okay, just you wait. All righty. So, when I was a kid, in our family, you couldn't call adults by their first name. So I have a bunch of uncles and aunts. You know, that was a just you wait kind of situation. Just you wait until you're old enough, and then you'll be able to do that. I remember one day, Sanford's nodding. He says, "Yeah, I know that story. Don't you mess up, be like this big and call an adult by their first name. That's like get your teeth straightened kind of energy, you know." Yep. Some communities that's not called abuse. That's just called discipline. But that's another story. But I remember that. One day, I went with my Uncle Sterling. He owned a mortuary, Sterling, McFall Brothers in Detroit. And we were going out to, I don't know, get hot dogs or something, maybe ribeyes. and I said, Uncle Sterling? He says, just call me Sterling. I was like, wow, I'm 14, I can call him Sterling, you know. But it was very hard. He even to this day, at this age, he is still Uncle Sterling. It's slow to die. But the just you wait kind of thing, you know, it's got two sides to it. It's that side of reward, just you wait till you get old enough to drive, just you wait till you get old enough to drink, just you wait. It has old enough for sex. It has its benefits on that side, but then there's this other side of just you wait. And we were sort of talking about it and joking about it when I was talking about my glasses and staying at the 170s instead of 200s, and you know. And when you're younger, it's like you're reading in the dark, and your parents walk in and they go, "Turn on the light." You know, just you wait till you get older, you won't be able to see. You know. Just you wait till you wake up and your back's hurting and everything. You'll know what it's like when you get older. There's the just you wait, the aches, the pains, the memory's not going to be as good, you know. Just you wait till you retire so you can travel and have leisure life. As if you can't have leisure life while you're working. What's vacation for anyway, you know? But so just you wait is this double-edged saying that we kind of deal with. And in the just you wait's about memory and vision and all the kind of predictions that really have a negative connotation to them, I'm thinking maybe that's not what we want to do. And Science of Mind is very well set up to help us conquer those kinds of just you waits. Dr. Holmes says in a wonderful book, it was his first, it's called The Creative Mind, and he says in it, we must learn so to control the inner life that outside things do not make an impression upon our mentalities. If we can get to the place where we're not taking those just you wait messages into our hearts and making them a part of our lives, maybe we could grow up without needing these when you get a little bit older. Maybe we wouldn't wake up with the aches and pains that we wake up with. And I think to a degree we have learned that. I mean, we hear now that 60 is the new 40 and 50 the new 30 and 70 the new 20. You know. What? Jerry's like going, no, it's not even working like that. I don't know. You should see Wally when he's riding around on his bicycle. He looks like he's 20, zipping through. He's got his Speedos on and everything, looking sharp, you know. Yeah. But we can really, we do have the power of consciousness to work against some of these collective conscious ideas. You know, Dr. Holmes called it race consciousness, and people get all freaked out nowadays because race, what do you mean? He's talking about the human race. Jung said it very well when he called it the collective consciousness. It's the same thing. And that collective consciousness has its effect on us unconsciously, because it is, right? The unconscious. But we in Science of Mind are able to access that and learn how to dig in and weed out those old beliefs and move beyond the just you wait pronouncements of what our life is going to be like. But it takes time. It takes time. Like the thing about driving and drinking. And I mean, you know, Mark Nepo came to the rescue on this one. I was reading him this week, and he says that patience, hard as it is, helps us outlast our preconceptions. Isn't that interesting? If we can just hang in there long enough, some of those just you waits that we have to wait for that are good for us will help us move beyond the idea of what we think it's like. It certainly is a good idea, and I encourage this I've been working with this in my motorcycle organizations for a long time to get young folks some special training on their motorcycles. You know, under 25, it seems like the only speed you want to do, I love riding my motorcycle, it seems like the only speed you want to do under 25 is boom, full throttle. That's dangerous. See, if we can get a little patience and outlive the joy of what that speed is like and get some responsibility around it, maybe there'd be fewer head injuries and fewer young kids getting hurt on their motorcycles. This is the patience that outlasts the preconceptions that speed is best. The patience that outlasts the preconceptions that drinking is a good idea. To give you the time to learn to modify that kind of behavior so your life doesn't get controlled by it. We're talking about mental power. We're talking about the control of our thoughts and how those thoughts outpicture in our lives. Because you see, what we're really trying to do in our life is seek harmony with the one. There's just the one power, the one life that is God expressing as you, as me, and everything else in the universe. And so what we're trying to do really is to get into alignment with it. But our free will gives us the opportunity to buy in to those just you wait kind of messages, to buy into doing what others do or what others say. We spend a lot of time listening to what others say and doing what they say, seeing what others do and following along with what they do, instead of following that intuition, that inner knowledge that tells us that there's something that we are here to do. See, what we need to learn to do is to monitor and even control the outer suggestions that come into our lives so that we can live a more pure life that's designed for the special individualized expressions that we are. We all have this individualized thing that we are supposed to do. And to get the message of what that is, Maggie was talking about it, and maybe not 3 hours. 3 minutes is a good start. Somewhere in between that. Somewhere in between that. Although I did go to a 7-day silent retreat once. I think I talked about this. And it was a lovely experience, except for day 3, when something in the way she moves attracts me like no other lover. Barry White in my head for the next 2 days at a silent retreat. You only get 20 minutes a day where you could sit with the Dharma, with the Brahmin, the guru, the whatever he was, and you get this Dharma talk with him, and that's the only time you could talk. And so I get in there and I sit down with him, and I say, I'm hearing Barry White in my head. He goes, good. What should I do? Listen. I want to get one of those kind of guru jobs where you just have to say one word, send somebody spinning out of control. Listen! Wah! Ah! But Dr. Holmes would have been just like that. He would have said the same thing, because he says in Creative Mind, as we sit in the silence of our own souls and listen, it will be the greatest thing that we ever do. The greatest thing that we will ever do is to sit in the silence of our own souls, to hear that internal message that is ever speaking to us, to get in tune with our intuition. And it's so hard. I'm loving my Insight Timer. I absolutely love the Insight Timer. Thank you for turning me on to it, Kathy. I really do. And all the people that are members and friends and stuff like that. It's beautiful. But what I'm finding is I'm using it for entertainment. I'm using it to not get into the silence. I'm going for the guided meditations. I'm going for the music meditations, and I call myself meditating. That's not meditating. That's entertainment. I have to go back to the silence. Not 3 hours, but back into the silence. And in doing that, something does indeed come through. Something fantastic that will lift my life. And I think even for you, will lift your own life. I know that when I do that each week before I get ready for these talks, when I sit in the silence, well, relative silence, because sometimes Susan's phone goes off. She's got that funny thing going on her phone when text messages come in. But when I digress. But when I know, ding, guess what? He did it again. So, right. But when I can get that silence, it's interesting how these downloads come, how like the talk will come, and then the rest of the week, everywhere I go, like when I was working on this talk, for example, it came from that silence. It came from sitting in the silence. And then I thought, okay, so now how am I going to support that talk? And I was walking past the bookshelf in the house, and I'm kind of a little bit, well, you know, the monkism, right? I got the anal thing. And so I'm walking past, and some of the books on the Ernest Holmes shelf are all out of order and stuff. And so I walk by, and I'm putting them back into order. And for some reason, Creative Mind just would not go into the place I was trying to put it in. It's just kept, and it just wouldn't fit. So I'm rearranging and wanting to be like stacked up. That's just so weird, isn't it? Just gotta be flow in the picture. And then there it was sticking out. And I thought, oh, so I pull it out. And turns out creative mind has got all the stuff that I needed for the just you wait talk, you know? But it's like from the silence, when you get into the silence and you get the message, then the universe conspires to give you all the things necessary to make the message come true in your life. If you don't believe me, be a religious scientist and try it out for yourself. Sit in the silence, wait, you'll find it. It'll tell you what it is. The message will come to you loud and clear, and then go out into the world and watch how the world will manifest that realization for you. I think that might have been what happened for Colonel Sanders. Do you know his story of Kentucky Fried Chicken? That he was 65 years old. He gets his first retirement check. It's $99. He goes, this is just not gonna work. I make some mean chicken. I'm gonna sell my chicken. And next thing you know, it's owned by Taco Bell. I mean, you know. John Glenn. And you're never too late. 77, he went out into space, 77 years old, you know? Talking about listening to the silence and acting on that thing that comes from your silence. There's a woman named Nola Ox. She was 95 years old. 95 years old. So I guess let me back it up. 91 years old, she decided, I need to finish college. So she enrolled in Fort Hays State University in Kansas, and at 95 became the oldest person to graduate with a bachelor's degree in the United States at 95 years old. Listening in the silence and getting that download of what to do. And here's how the universe worked it out for her. It just so happened that her granddaughter was also going to Fort Hays State University, and they graduated together in the same class. And there's the other one that really gets me is 92 years old. This is, and I dedicate this one to my mom. Gladys Brill, 92 years old, ran a marathon at 92. Right? Go girl, right? So it's never too late or too early. Mozart, writing his first symphony, 6 or 7 years old, and Jodie Foster directed her first film at 14 years old. It's never too early, it's never too late to listen to the silence to get that message of what to do. J.R.R. Tolkien was 62 when the first Lord of the Rings was written and published. So, if you're sitting on your duff thinking, I'm too old to do that, if you're worried about work, 175 or 200s, you're not too old. You just have to listen and live your life on your own, not by proxy, not by what everybody else is saying to do. You see, the mental power is pretty important and impacting. Another thing I came across this week, which is, I'm still working with this one, but think about this. Okay, the brain has electricity running through it, right? So mental activity is pushed by electricity. The heart though, you're attracted to things, Your heart, you're attracted to this beauty. You're attracted to nature. You're attracted to your partner. That's heart. The heart is magnetic. Whoa, the heart is magnetic and the mind is electric. So your thoughts are sending energy out into the universe, and your desire, that urge that's within you that comes from your heart, is taking those electric thoughts and attracting them, magnetizing them right to you. So you're set up. You're already set up for success by the way the universe has made our bodies. It's pretty freaking cool. But now, back to last week, the fine print. Write your own story, right? Write your own terms. There's fine print to this. You see, we have to recognize that we are in control of our thoughts. We have to get in touch with the inner activity of our mind and know what that's all about. And part of that is really letting go and trusting. Stop struggling so much. I know I do it. I struggle all the time, and I remind myself, just breathe, let go, and release. And when I do, the phone rings. Something came up with my mother this week about her care, and I was concerned about how I was going to handle this situation. And I did that. I stopped struggling with it. I stopped arguing with the people at the health care center. I just kind of went quiet. And I said, you know what? The healthcare center is not my source. Social Security is not our source. Medicare is not our source. God is our source. 2 minutes later, my alarm goes off on my phone. I had a call I needed to make, a weekly call. I did the call. My friend says, "What's up with you? You sound a little depressed." I said, "I'm going through some stuff with my mom." He says, "Oh, you know what? One of my friends was the first assistant secretary of Health and Human Services during the Clinton administration. You want his phone number?" Yes! Right? I mean, wow. That's how it works. That's how this stuff works. Stop struggling. Trust the law. Be calm. The law is invisible, but it's there. It's there. You can't see it, but what's going to happen to this thing? It's going to hit the floor. You know that's going to happen. That's gravity. Well, spiritual laws are the same way. They're not there, but they're working. How do I know? I have the phone number of the first assistant secretary of Health and Human Services during the Clinton administration. I'm going to call him on Monday and say, "Help my mama." That's amazing that can happen like that. This is in the way. Better put it right there before I crush it. So that's some of the fine print. Be calm. Trust the law. Know it's invisible, but it's there. Stop struggling. Easy does it. Get inner control. But the biggest fine print of them all is, again, back to creative mind. Thank you for that one. It says, we can use the law for what we will, only with this provision, that insofar as we use it for the good of all, are we protected. Don't be selfish. When we're using the law, when we're applying things, when we're looking at what's happening for our life, the checkpoint is this for the good of all? Is this going to lift the planet? Is this going to lift humanity? Is this going to make life a little easier for somebody other than just me? Again, we all got nice places to live. Maggie just got herself a new apartment. She's getting ready to practice downsizing. That's wonderful. We all got too much stuff. I got so many coffee cups. It's like I can only drink one coffee at a time. Why do I have 25 coffee cups? It's crazy, you know. But there's plenty of parking when you come to the center. We all got parking places. Let's stop manifesting personal stuff. Let's start manifesting a life that makes the planet a little bit better. Something that's for the good of all. And if we do that, in the fine print says, we're protected and the law is going to take care of us and bring that manifestation to life for us. See, if we're in harmony with the universe, we're in forward movement. But if we're in opposition with the universe, I'm telling you, the cosmic 2x4 crush will come down on us. And it's not like punishment. It's just a reminder that we're out of alignment with the law. We have a chance to choose again. Wonderful. Every day, choose again. We were joking about that this week, about the choosing again. If you should happen to need to get an insect out of your house and you don't feel like carrying it outside, you could just say, "Choose again." It's just a thought. Don't get mad. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just giving you options.
Is that for you or the insect?
Both. It could be, because that's the next thing that came to mind, is that at some point, when you think about the immensity of the universe, we are insects, and somebody from Drama Automata somewhere could just come on here and just go, "Choose again," and there we are, you know? It's just that simple, right? And it's not that big of a deal, because it's just life. We're gonna go back into the primordial soup and come back again as something else, you know, if you believe in that sort of thing, which I do. Not necessarily reincarnation, but I do believe in the eternality of life. You know, in the Gospel of Thomas, it says, if you bring forth what is within you, it will save you. But if you do not bring forth what is within you, it will destroy you. And I don't mean like it's gonna kill you, but it'll lower your energy. It'll leave you depressed. You'll be sad. You'll be agitated, easily upset, wagging your finger at people and telling people that they're number one when they really aren't. All that kind of stuff, you know? That's happening. If you feel edgy all the time, it's probably that you may not have been spending enough time in the silence listening for your opportunity to create Kentucky Fried Chicken. I mean, you got to figure out that there's this thing that's happening to us all the time. The universe is always speaking and always sending us messages, and sometimes the message is agitation. Sometimes the message is discomfort. And if that's what's happening, you might want to go back and think, am I working for the good of all? Is that why I'm not feeling protected in this very moment? See, what I know, and I truly believe this, I saw it yesterday with our next generation group, the under 40. We met in the classroom, and it was just delightful, man. They were on fire. They got an energy. They self-formed them. I was worried about what they were going to do in terms of science mind concepts, and they showed up with the 10 core principles, and they were talking about stuff that was blowing my mind. I'm like, really? You got to get this deep? It's beautiful. Because we're all called to levels of greatness, you see. And what we need to realize is, again, I love how Mark Nepo describes this. Listen to this. He says that like lifeless trees waiting for morning, something as great and as constant as the earth, holds us up and turns us ever slowly toward the light. See, there's something within us. When our dreams are lifeless, when they're just a seed and they're waiting to burst forth, there's something within us, like the turning of the earth toward the sun every day. There's something within us that's turning us toward the light, to answer the phone, to get the phone number, that's turning us toward the light, to walk out and just be there at the right time that a person walks by that you wanted to have a conversation with, or a neighbor who never comes outside. You've set yourself to the point where I'm going to meet that neighbor, and that day you're driving out of your driveway and there they are, and you stop. You don't just wave. You roll your window down and you have a conversation. There's something in us that's pulling us toward that light of spirit to express the greatness of ourselves each and every day of our lives. See, our good is assured when we trust, when we are in faith, when we're consistent in our practice, and when we have the mental equivalent that we are worthy and good enough to have it. See, we must understand that we are worthy to our great call, and we deserve to have our great call. Dr. Holmes says, if you want to build a railroad, you will never do it unless you get over the idea that the most you could hope for in life is to sell peanuts. Are you with that? Let that sink in for a minute. How many of us have railroad dreams, but to think we can only sell peanuts? How many of us are living life for peanuts when we could be like Vanderbilt? Cornelius Vanderbilt, by the way, didn't buy his first railroad till he was 71 years old. That's amazing. And remember Nola and Gladys. And the greatness that we're doing, it doesn't have to be a Vanderbilt Railroad thing. It doesn't have to be as big as Colonel Sanders and Kentucky Fried Chicken. It can be something as you know, like, my brother went to an event a few years back, and there were some young boys there, and they needed to wear ties. And one of the young boys didn't know how to tie his tie, and he asked Michael if he would tie his tie. And so he did. And then he had a line of 5 other boys to tie their ties. And it turns out that these young boys were in fatherless homes. And he realized that there's a large community of young boys in fatherless homes. So he created an event called Tie the Knot, where he brought fathers and surrogate fathers, foster fathers, together with young boys. And at the highlight of this event was a music concert. It was really lovely. But in the middle of it, all these boys come out on stage, and all these men come out on stage, and they tied their ties. And for daughters, they tied ribbons in their hair. And I was wearing the Tie the Knot T-shirt. Now here's where what I'm saying is that the big thing that we do doesn't have to be huge. It just has to fulfill that silent urge that comes up when we're in that space, okay? So here's this, I'm wearing this T-shirt and I'm going to the bank, and one of my favorite tellers is a guy named Emmanuel, and he looks at me and goes, "Oh," he sees the shirt, he goes, "What's that all about?" And I tell him, he says, "How can I participate in that?" I said, "Well, it was a one-time event, it was in Minnesota, I don't think it can happen again, you know, and it's a long way away if it does." And he goes, "Oh," and I said, "Well, why'd you ask?" He says, "Well, I've been wanting to do something in the community. I want to do something for young black boys. I want to start a program somewhere, and I don't know how to do it." And I thought, if that's a program, I could join up with that. I said, "Well, you happen to be talking to just the right guy, because I know how to do that. I did that for a while, and I know 2 principals at 2 schools down in South Central who would be more than happy to have your energy to come down there and do it." And he took the phone numbers, and last week he told me that he called them, and now he's going to go start this after-school program at 2 schools down in South Central. It's just like that. it's just like just showing up as you, and then you get to bring somebody else to that place where they're lifted up to their greatness. We're called to that. See, our good is assured. So, I'm running a little bit longer today. Can I go a little bit longer than I normally do? Because what I was thinking, what came to me, and I know Sunday morning is not a workshop, but what I'd like for you to do is to just relax into your space and go into the silence for a minute. Because see, our good is assured. I want you to think about if there's some unrealized great assurance of the divine, something that is in you that hasn't yet manifested. The nagging knock, 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 you could do this, but then the other voice is saying, no, you can't. Stop that conversation and just let the idea of your next thing to do that lifts you up, let that come to the surface of your consciousness right now. And now what I'd like you to do is to share that idea with somebody next to you. Make it real. Let it out. If you feel inclined to do so. If it's so private you don't want to share it with someone, that's your business. But I would like for you to share it with your neighbor right now. Really. Tell somebody this great idea. So my friends, Dr. Holmes says, God has created for you a glorious future. Dare to fling out into the mind the greater assurances about yourself. That's what I was asking you to do. Fling out into the mind the great assurances of yourself. And I heard the rumbling, so I know there was some sharing going on. And what I would like to do is to take a moment to, don't freak out, all you folks that are running from traditional church. We're going to do a liturgy. I wrote a Science of Mind liturgy. It's a liturgy is like a call response kind of a thing, right? Except we're going to call response the same thing. So I'm going to say something, you say it back. We're going to say it really loud. We're going to say it with power, because what it's going to do is it's going to anchor this vision, this great assurance that you were just sharing, or that you were just holding, or just arose for you. Are you good with that? Yeah. Okay? All right. So it starts with, wake up! Wake up! My word is all powerful. My consciousness is one with omnipotence, omniscience, omnipresence. My thought is infinite. My destiny is eternal. My home is everlasting heaven. And so it is. Live in your power. Just you wait. Just you wait and see what great stuff we're going to do. 2018's coming. All right. So here's your affirmation. Make it powerful for you. I expect the best, and by divine right, the best becomes my experience, and for that I am grateful. Always, always, always add gratitude. All right. Thanks for indulging that. That work for you? All right? Good. Good. Let's do our... Allow me. Open at the top. Slightly. There we go. All right. Healing prayer time. We're going to do this collectively. We're going to make everybody a practitioner in the room to speak the truth for all those that we love and hold dear. And if you really want to do practitioner consciousness, a prayer for somebody that you don't love and hold dear, but you know that they could use some support, right? So I ask you at this moment to bring those names, bring those ideas right out loud into the room so we can pray together. Feeling the divine presence in this moment, I'm just alive with the energy of spirit. And I know that each and every person in here is alive with the energy of spirit, for we are that animating activity of God itself. There is something great within each and every one of us. There's a divine spark that lifts us up in the morning, that brings us out into the day, that allows us to look with a sense of wonder and amazement at what is before us, the beauty of life itself. Feeling unified in this experience by sharing the breath, sharing the air, sharing the space called CSL Simi Valley, sharing in consciousness of knowing that there is a way and a method to bring good into our lives. We apply that method right now. We speak the truth for each and every person in this room. We speak the truth right now for all those we hold in our hearts and hold dear. We speak the truth for all those who are in apparent need or want, knowing that in truth they are exactly where they are, and by the word that we speak, we bring them to the place where they are going. And that place is right action in terms of whatever might be bringing strife or stress or suffering to a life. There is a divinely guided, intuitive voice leading them into the bright light of the Spirit, turning them toward the light so their life becomes bright. I'm knowing that in the way of financial prosperity and abundance, that it's flowing and overflowing into people's lives, and that when someone is reaching into their pocket and thinking not enough, perhaps the pocket says not enough, but the idea in mind says, I have enough. I have enough ideas. I have enough ways. I have enough resources, for there's always enough in an infinite universe for someone to experience more good. And by the word we speak right now, more good is their experience. Harmony in the home, in right relationship, finding that perfect employment, using talents and skills in ways that bring a sense of purpose and satisfaction and fulfillment to each and every person. These are the things we hold dear for the planet, for the people that we know, for those that we don't know, for those that we hear about, for those that we care about. We know there is a loving presence that applies a beautiful law to make things right, to turn crooked pathways straight, and to bring victory to each and every person. In a glorious feeling of gratitude, I release this prayer into an infinite law, the cosmic ear, the loving heart that magnetizes and hears the good and makes it real. I let it be by affirming it with these simple words. And so it is. Okay.